The cold was what I remember most. Not the flak, not the fighters, not even the fire. The cold. At 25,000 feet over Berlin in January 1944, the temperature was 60 below zero. Your breath froze in your oxygen mask. Your tears froze on your cheeks. Touch metal with your bare hand and your skin would stick, tear away when you pulled back. We called them flying fortresses, said they were indestructible, said they could take a beating and bring you home. They were lying. I watched mine come apart around me over Berlin, watched it burn, watched my friends die in that burning metal coffin while German fighters circled like sharks and the flak kept coming and we fell out of the sky. I was the ball turret gunner. That's a plexiglass sphere hanging under the belly of the plane with 2.50 caliber machine guns. You curl up inside it. Can't stand, can't sit properly, just crouch there in a ball with your knees to your chest. No room to wear a parachute. No way to get out quickly if something goes wrong. If the plane goes down and the turret gets damaged, you're trapped. You die in your little glass ball while the bomber falls 25,000 feet. That's what almost happened to me. Almost died, curled up in that turret, watching the ground come closer, unable to move, unable to escape. The only reason I'm here to tell you this is because of Tommy Ricci, the waist gunner who gave up his own chance to survive to pull me out. Tommy died anyway. We all died a little that day, even those of us who made it back. My name is Vincent Vinnie Marconi, and I flew 23 missions with the 381 bomb group out of England. Made it through 22 of them without a scratch. On the 23rd, a daylight raid on Berlin, my luck ran out. My crew's luck ran out. Our fortress wasn't so indestructible after all. I grew up in the Bronx, son of Italian immigrants. My father was a tailor, worked 16-hour days so his kids could have better. I was going to college, City College, studying engineering, when Pearl Harbor happened. I enlisted the next day. Felt like it was what you did, what you had to do. They made me a gunner because I was small, 5'6", 135 pounds. Perfect size for the ball turret. Perfect size to curl up in a metal ball and shoot at fighters trying to kill you while hanging exposed underneath a bomber at 25,000 feet. Training was in Texas. They taught us how to operate the guns, how to track targets, how to not shoot our own planes. They taught us about oxygen systems and electrical suits that kept you from freezing. They taught us to trust our plane, our crew, our equipment. They didn't teach us what to do when your plane is on fire and falling out of the sky and your ball turret is jammed and you can't get out. Didn't teach us how to watch our friends burn. Didn't teach us how to survive when survival seemed impossible. Mission number 23. January 17th, 1944. Target, Berlin. Big B, we called it. The most heavily defended city in Germany. Hitler's capital. Every mission to Berlin was suicide odds. You had to fly straight and level through the heaviest flak concentration in Europe. Had to maintain formation while hundreds of 88mm guns threw up walls of steel. Had to keep flying while German fighters, FW-190s and ME-109s, swarmed you like angry hornets. Our plane was called Lucky Lady. Stupid name. Nothing lucky about her, as it turned out. We took off at 0600 hours from our base in Essex. 36 planes from our group, hundreds more from other groups. The whole 8th Air Force going to Berlin. The sky was full of bombers, stacked up in formation, heading east toward Germany. I was in my turret by 0800 once we crossed the channel. It was cramped, cold, claustrophobic. The electrical heating suit helped some, but not enough. Never enough. I could see everything from down there. The ground far below, the other bombers in formation around us, the contrails streaming behind. The intercom crackled. Our pilot, Lieutenant Morrison, always calm, always steady. Gunners, stay alert. We'll hit the German border in 30 minutes. Expect fighters. I checked my guns, charged them, test-fired a short burst. Everything working, everything ready. My oxygen mask was fogging up a little, but I could breathe okay. The plastic hose that connected me to the plane's oxygen system was my lifeline. Lose that, and you'd pass out in seconds at this altitude. The fighters came just after we crossed into Germany. I saw them first, black dots at 2 o'clock low, climbing toward us. Then more at 9 o'clock. Then everywhere. Bandits! Bandits at 2 o'clock, someone called over the intercom. I count 20 plus at 9 o'clock. They're everywhere. The formation tightened up. When the fighters came, you closed ranks, overlapped your defensive fire. Fortress philosophy. Stay together, cover each other, put up so much lead that the fighters couldn't get through, but there were too many of them. And they were good. Veterans. They knew how to attack a B-17 formation, knew our blind spots, knew our weaknesses. An FW-190 came in from below, right at me, head-on pass. I swiveled my turret, tracked him, squeezed the triggers. The 50 cals hammered, shaking my whole sphere. I saw my tracers arc out toward the fighter, saw some hit, sparks flying off his engine cowling, but he didn't break off, kept coming, kept firing. I saw the wink of his guns, saw the tracers coming at me. Then impacts, metal shrieking, something slamming into the plane above me. The fighter flashed past, gone in an instant. Tails hit! Our tail gunner, Bobby Chen. I'm okay, but the tail's shot to hell. More fighters, coming from all directions now. The sky was full of tracers, shells, contrails. Our guns were firing constantly. The nose guns, the top turret, the waist guns, my turret. The noise was incredible, even through my helmet. The smell of cordite filled the plane. Then the flak started. Berlin's flak was legendary. They said you could walk on it. Thousands of 88-millimeter guns firing shells that burst at precise altitudes, turning the sky into a metal storm. You couldn't dodge it, couldn't evade. Just had to fly straight through and hope the fragments missed you. I saw the first bursts off to the left, black puffs appearing out of nowhere, looking almost harmless from a distance. But each one was hundreds of pieces of jagged steel expanding at high velocity. Each one could shred a plane, kill a crew. More bursts, closer now. The formation was flying into a wall of flak. I could hear the fragments hitting our plane, metal on metal pings and cracks, like hail on a tin roof, but each piece of hail could kill you. Jesus Christ, someone said over the intercom. Stay focused, Morrison said. Bombardier, how long to target? 5 minutes. Maintaining course? 5 minutes. 5 minutes flying straight and level through this hell. No evasive action, no escape. Just maintain course and altitude so the Bombardier could aim, so we could drop our bombs, so the mission could be completed. More flak. Heavier now. The plane shuddered with each near burst. I saw a B-17 off to our right take a direct hit. Just exploded. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. Just debris falling, pieces of metal and bodies tumbling through the air. Oh, God, Bobby said from the tail. I saw shoots. I saw shoots from that one. Stay on your guns, Morrison snapped. A burst of flak exploded right underneath us. I heard it, felt it. The whole plane bucking, metal tearing. Something hit my turret, a fragment smashing into the plexiglass inches from my face. Spiderweb cracks appeared, but it held, barely. We're hit, someone yelled. Number 3 engine's on fire. I craned around in my turret, tried to see. Couldn't see much, but I could smell it. Burning oil, burning metal, smoke starting to seep into my sphere. Feathering number 3, Morrison said, still calm. We can make it on 3 engines. More flak, more impacts. The plane was shaking now, handling wrong. Something was damaged, maybe a lot of things. Bombs away, the Bombardier called. We'd hit the target, done our job. Now we just had to survive the trip home. That's when everything went to hell. A flak burst went off directly above us. I didn't see it, but I felt it. The whole plane lurched, metal screaming, something catastrophic happening. The intercom went crazy, everyone yelling at once. "Number 2 engines hit. We're on fire. Fire in the radio room. I can't control her." Morrison's voice, no longer calm. "She's not responding." The plane started falling. Not a dive. A falling, spiraling drop. We'd lost too much. The engines, the controls, something critical. We were going down. And I was stuck in my turret. The hand crank that rotated me back to the entrance hatch, it wasn't working. Either damaged by the flak or jammed from the plane's motion. I couldn't turn myself back around. Couldn't get into position to pull myself up into the fuselage. I was trapped in my glass ball while the plane fell and burned around me. "I'm stuck," I screamed into the intercom. "The turret's jammed. I can't get out." The plane was shaking itself apart. We'd been hit hard, 2 engines out, fire spreading, controls damaged. Morrison was fighting to keep us flying, but we were losing altitude fast, falling through 20,000 feet, 18,000, 15,000. "Bail out," Morrison ordered. "Everyone bail out, now." I heard it over the intercom, my crew abandoning ship, the navigator, the bombardier, the top turret gunner. I heard them moving, heard hatches opening. They were leaving, jumping into the air with their parachutes. And I was still trapped. I yanked on the hand crank. Nothing. Kicked at it. Slammed my body against the turret walls. Nothing worked. The mechanism was jammed, frozen, broken. I was stuck in this sphere with the ground getting closer and closer and no way out. This is how I die, I thought, trapped in a ball, watching the earth rush up to meet me. Unable to move, unable to escape, just waiting for the impact that would turn me into paste. I was crying, couldn't help it, tears freezing on my face. I was 22 years old, and I was going to die trapped in a metal ball, and there was nothing I could do about it. Then I heard footsteps above me, someone moving through the fuselage. The intercom was dead now, so I couldn't hear who, but someone was still on the plane. Someone hadn't bailed out. The hatch above my turret opened. Tommy Ricci looked down at me, the waist gunner. He should have been gone. Should have jumped with everyone else. But he'd stayed. "I got you, Vinny," he yelled over the wind noise. "Give me your hand." "The turret's jammed. I can't rotate." "I know. Just give me your hand." The plane was at maybe 10,000 feet now. Falling fast. Spinning. The centrifugal force was crushing. I reached up through the hatch, grabbed Tommy's hand. He pulled. I pushed. We fought against the jammed mechanism, against the plane's motion, against physics and fate. My arm was going to rip out of its socket. Tommy was pulling so hard, grunting with effort. I could see his face, red from strain, determined. He wasn't giving up, wasn't leaving me. Something broke. Maybe the mechanism, maybe my shoulder. But suddenly I was moving, pulling up through the hatch that was too small, scraping skin, not caring. Tommy hauled me up into the fuselage, and we both collapsed. "Get your chute," he yelled. "Get it on and jump." I grabbed my parachute pack, clipped it on with shaking hands. The fuselage was full of smoke. Fire was spreading. I could barely see. The plane was shaking so badly I could hardly stand. Tommy pushed me toward the waist gun opening. "Go! Go now!" I hesitated. "What about you? I'm right behind you. Jump." I jumped, threw myself out into the air at 8,000 feet. The wind hit me like a wall. I tumbled, disoriented, pulling desperately for the ripcord. Found it. Pulled. The chute deployed. The jerk was incredible. Felt like my shoulders were being torn off, but I was floating now, hanging in the air, alive. I looked around for Tommy, for his chute, for any sign he'd jumped after me. I saw the plane. It was below me now, still falling, still burning. I watched it spiral down, trailing smoke and fire. Watched it hit the ground somewhere in the German countryside. A massive fireball. Nothing could survive that. No other chutes. Just mine. Tommy hadn't jumped. He'd stayed on the plane. Maybe he couldn't get to his chute in time. Maybe the plane was spinning too much. Maybe he'd used too much time saving me and run out for himself. I hung there in my parachute, watching my plane burn on the ground, knowing Tommy Ricci had died so I could live. I landed in a field about 2 miles from the crash site. Got tangled in my chute lines, hit hard, knocked the wind out of myself. Lay there for a few minutes just breathing, trying to process what had happened. I was alive. Somehow, impossibly, I was alive. German soldiers found me within an hour. I was taken prisoner, spent the rest of the war in Stalag Luft 3, 15 months as a POW. It should have been the worst time of my life, the hunger, the cold, the uncertainty. But it wasn't. Because every day in that camp I thought about Tommy, about how he'd saved me, about how he'd stayed on that plane when he should have jumped, about how he'd given his life for mine. The guilt was crushing, heavier than the cold in my ball turret, heavier than the fear during the mission. I was alive because Tommy Ricci was dead. Simple mathematics. One life exchanged for another. Why me? Why had he chosen to save me instead of saving himself? We were friends, sure, but not that close. Just crew members who'd flown together, drank together sometimes, wrote letters home about the same things. But he'd stayed, and I'd lived, and he'd died. The other survivors from our crew, Morrison, Bobby, 3 others who'd bailed out successfully, we ended up in the same camp. We never talked about it. Never talked about the mission, about the plane going down, about Tommy. What was there to say? Morrison tried once. He made his choice, Vinny. He knew what he was doing. But that didn't help, didn't ease the weight. Tommy had made a choice, yes, but it was the wrong choice. He should have jumped, should have saved himself. I wasn't worth dying for. I started having nightmares in the camp, not about the mission, about the turret. I'd dream I was stuck in there, trapped, and the plane was falling. But in the dreams, nobody came. No Tommy, no rescue. Just me falling, watching the ground get closer, unable to escape. I'd wake up screaming, tangled in my thin blanket, other prisoners telling me to shut up. The dreams never stopped. 11 years later, I still have them, still trapped in that turret, still falling, still waiting for Tommy to save me, knowing he won't because he's dead. The war ended in May 1945. They liberated our camp and sent us home. I got back to New York in June, 20 pounds lighter, with a 1,000-yard stare and nightmares that wouldn't quit. My parents threw a party. Everyone wanted to hear about my service, about flying combat missions, about being a POW. I told them sanitized versions, said the missions were tough, but we did our duty, said the prison camp was hard, but we survived, said I was glad to be home. I didn't tell them about watching my plane explode, about being trapped in the ball turret, about Tommy Ricci staying behind to save me, about the guilt that was eating me alive from the inside. They gave me medals. Air Medal with 3 oak leaf clusters. Purple Heart for wounds received. I'd gotten some shrapnel cuts I barely remembered. Tried to give me a Distinguished Flying Cross, but I refused it. Didn't feel I'd done anything distinguished. I'd survived. That's all. Survived because someone else died in my place. I went back to college on the GI Bill. Finished my engineering degree. Got a job, got married, had kids, built a normal life. From the outside, I was fine. A successful veteran who'd moved on, who'd adjusted, who'd put the war behind him. But I hadn't. I'll never put it behind me. I can't ride in elevators. The enclosed space, the feeling of being trapped, it brings it all back. I take the stairs even if it's 20 floors. My wife doesn't understand. I've tried to explain, but the words don't come out right. How do you explain that elevators feel like ball turrets? That every time I'm in an enclosed space, I feel like I'm trapped at 25,000 feet with the plane falling around me? I can't go to the circus, can't watch the trapeze artists. The sight of people hanging in the air, the risk of falling, it makes my heart race, makes me short of breath, makes me remember dangling in my parachute, watching Tommy's plane burn, knowing he was in there somewhere. I found out later that 5 of our crew died that day. Morrison went down with the plane. Bobby Chen's chute didn't open. 2 others were killed when they landed in trees. Tommy, 5 men out of 10. 50% casualties. About average for a mission to Berlin. But Tommy was different. The others died from bad luck, from circumstances beyond their control. Tommy died because he chose to, because he stayed behind to save me. I tried to find his family, write to them, explain what happened, tell them their son, their brother, had died a hero, that he'd saved my life. I wrote the letter 6 times, never sent any of them. What would I say? Your son died so I could live. Your brother gave up his chance to survive to pull me out of a jammed turret. He's dead and I'm alive, and I don't know why he thought I was worth it. Every mission to Berlin was suicide odds. We knew that going in. 23 missions, and I'd beaten those odds 22 times. On the 23rd, my luck ran out. My crew's luck ran out. Lucky Lady wasn't so lucky, but I survived. Because Tommy Ricci had stayed behind when he should have jumped. Because he'd pulled me out of my glass prison. Because he'd given me his chance at survival. I'm 45 years old now. I have a wife who loves me despite the nightmares and the refusal to use elevators. I have 2 kids who don't understand why Daddy doesn't like carnivals. I have a good job, a house in the suburbs, a normal life. But I'm not really here. Part of me is still in that ball turret, watching the ground get closer, unable to escape. Part of me is still watching Tommy's plane burn, knowing he's inside. Part of me is still in that German prison camp, asking why I survived when better men died. They called them flying fortresses, said they were indestructible. But mine came apart over Berlin, came apart in fire and smoke and flak. And I watched it happen from the most vulnerable spot on the plane, a glass ball hanging underneath where the fighters could see me and the flak could hit me and there was no protection, no armor, no safety. I was supposed to die in that turret. The odds said I should have. The jammed mechanism said I would. But Tommy Ricci changed those odds, changed my fate, gave me a future by sacrificing his own. And I don't know what to do with that. Don't know how to live with the weight of someone else's sacrifice. Don't know how to be worth what he paid for me. The cold is what I remember most. 60 below zero at 25,000 feet. But that's not the cold that stays with me. The cold that stays is deeper, interior. The cold knowledge that I'm alive because someone else is dead, that I have a life Tommy Ricci will never have, that every moment I live, every breath I take, every time I hug my kids or kiss my wife, those are moments Tommy should have had. They asked me once if I'd do it again, if I'd climb back into that ball turret if they needed gunners for another war. I said no, said I'd done my part, said I'd earned my peace. But that's not why. The real reason is I can't go back in that turret because I'm still in it, still trapped, still falling, still waiting for someone to save me who's already dead and gone. Tommy Ricci was 23 years old, from Newark. His family owned a grocery store. He wanted to take over the business after the war. Wanted to marry his high school sweetheart, a girl named Maria. Wanted kids, a house, a normal life. He gave all that up to pull me out of a turret. and I got to live the life he should have lived. Got the wife, the kids, the house, the future. I got it all, and it feels like theft. They gave me medals, called me brave, said I'd served with honor, but they're wrong. I didn't do anything brave. I just got trapped and got saved and survived. The brave one was Tommy. The one with honor was Tommy. The hero was Tommy. And he's in an Air Force cemetery in Belgium, buried in the soil of a country he'd barely heard of before the war. While I'm here, in America, living the life he bought for me. The cold was what I remember most, but that's not what stays with me. What stays is the warmth of Tommy's hand pulling me out of that turret. The last warmth I felt before he went back into a burning plane and never came out. I still feel that hand sometimes. At night, in my dreams, pulling me up, saving me. And I still wonder why he thought I was worth it. I'll wonder that until the day I die.